A new name just appeared on the trade market, and I kind of love it for the Red Sox. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin, and while we're all still patiently waiting here on Soto Watch, there's been some other movement amongst Major League Baseball, and one of them is the announcement of two people who are entering the trading block. One of them, I think, could be a really good fit with the Red Sox, so what we are going to do in today's video, talk about why I really like this trade idea, what it would possibly take to get him here, and whether or not this is a realistic target for this Red Sox team. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so Corbin, what are we talking about here? Well, yesterday, Joel Sherman of the New York Post put out a report that was pretty interesting, at least from a Red Sox fan perspective, because yesterday he said, quote, the Chicago Cubs are determined to trade one of Cody Bellinger or Seiya Suzuki. Now, I know immediately there are going to be some people that are like, oh man, Cody Bellinger, let's talk about that guy, right? But I don't think Cody Bellinger makes a ton of sense for where the Red Sox are right now and what they're trying to do over the next couple of years, just simply based on lineup fit and where he'd fit on this field. However, the other person mentioned in this article, Seiya Suzuki, I actually do think could make some sense, and I think it's for a couple of different reasons. First of all, he's coming off maybe actually definitely his best season yet at the major league level. It's a 283 average, a 366 on base percentage, and a 482 slug with 21 home runs, 27 doubles, and a 138 OPS plus, about 38% above league average production. If you take a look at that Baseball Savant page from this season, his peripherals, for the most part, were absolutely fantastic as well. It wasn't just he was making a bunch of contact, he was making a ton of really hard contact as well, in the 91st percentile in hard hit percentage. That is absolutely a fantastic sign. Not to mention, on top of that, this season he was also absolutely fantastic at not chasing pitches outside of the zone. So what you got this season from Seiya Suzuki was a combination of power and patience, and it's not like this is some sort of fluky, strange season from Seiya Suzuki. In fact, this is kind of what he's been doing since he came over from the NPB. He spent 3 years so far in the big leagues with a 278 average, a 354 on base percentage, and a 470 slug with a career OPS plus of 128, which is an extremely productive right-handed option for this Red Sox team. The next thing we need to look at, outside of the statistics on the back of the baseball card, is exactly the problems the Red Sox are dealing with. How does he improve both the strikeout rate and improve their efficiency against left-handed pitching, which I still, by the way, think ultimately is solved by the lefties on this team just simply being better against left-handed pitching, but obviously a lefty killing right-hander in the middle of this order certainly wouldn't hurt either. Taking a look at the strikeout part of this thing first, he's been fairly solid at limiting his strikeouts at the major league level. Overall, throughout his career, it's a 24.8% strikeout rate, which is about 2.2% above league average. So there is certainly some swing and miss in his game, but at the same time, too, he's not incredibly below average when it comes to his swing and miss. And still, if you take into consideration his overall ability to not strike out a ton at the major league level, it would be about 10% below where Tyler O'Neill was last season. Now, I will say one thing that we need to point out with Seiya Suzuki is that this season, he didn't do a fantastic job at limiting strikeouts. His strikeout rate was at 27.4% this year, which was in just the 18th percentile in Major League Baseball. It is definitely something to pay attention to. I don't know if this is just sort of he wanted to add more power, it didn't totally work out type thing. I don't know if this is a trend. All I know is that that is a pretty significant jump from his career statistics, and it's definitely inflating his career numbers a little bit. So it's certainly something to pay attention to, but even at 27-ish%, that's still basically 5% below what Tyler O'Neill was giving you over the course of 2024. Now, the other part of this is whether or not he hits lefties, right? Throughout his career, he's been pretty solid. A 285 average, a 377 on base percentage, and a 466 slug. In this season in particular, he really excelled against lefties, especially in the power department. It was a 274 average, an 829 OPS, and a 134 OPS plus. Again, 34% above league average production. So taking a look at everything at the plate with Seiya Suzuki, not only do the back of the baseball card statistics really look good on paper, he also fits both the needs the Red Sox have right now in some fashion. Now, I will say one of the things that we do need to point out is that last season, Suzuki was not a great defensive player. He had a -3 outs above average in 2024, which was well below the average defender in baseball. But what I will say is, personally, I don't know how concerned with the defensive metrics I would be if I were the Boston Red Sox, mainly because his arm is absolutely fantastic. It was above average in value. He's got a ton of power behind that arm. He's athletic. He's above average in the top 25%-ish percentile in Major League Baseball in sprint speed. I think he's athletic enough to get closer towards league average defensively if the Red Sox were to stick him 81 games in left field at Fenway Park. Now, I don't know really what you do outside of Fenway Park, but at Fenway, we've seen it before where guys come in and maybe they're not the most stellar defender in the world, but they become adequate options for the Red Sox team. Yes, the defensive issues are there, but I don't think they're as big of an issue, especially considering what you'd be getting offensively from Seiya Suzuki to really sort of completely turn you off from this deal. Now, the other thing that I wanted to point out is that Seiya really wouldn't be a crazy long-term solution, but he's not really a rental either. Right now, Seiya Suzuki is signed under a contract which would have him being a free agent coming out of the 2026 season. Again, it's not a crazy long-term solution, but it's not a one-year rental either. There is some legitimate money attached to this thing. It is a $19 million a year value. But I will also say, again, comparatively to the rest of the free agent market or some players on the trade market as well, when it comes to bats that could have a very legitimate impact on this Red Sox lineup, that could end up being kind of a bargain, right? Bregman wants over $200 million. Willie Adames will definitely be in the 20s when it comes to millions of dollars per year. Polar Bear Pete, I don't even want to talk about. Soto's obviously going to be like 50, 55 million a season. So this could end up looking like a bit of a bargain despite the price tag attached. So if you take a look at all the factors that could lead to why the Red Sox are interested in Seiya, it's not exactly a secret as to why I really love the fact that the Chicago Cubs are making him available this offseason, because I would love to see the Red Sox go after him. But just because the fit is there doesn't mean this is a possibility. So I think we really need to take a look at what it would take to get Seiya onto the Red Sox, and obviously whether or not this is a realistic possibility. Honestly, when we're looking at the price it would take to get Seiya Suzuki from the Chicago Cubs, according to baseball trade values, it's essentially nothing. According to them, Seiya Suzuki has just $400,000 in trade value. For an equivalent to what that would cost the Red Sox, we're talking about hypothetically a deal accepted of just Justin Ramir, who is the Red Sox number 34 prospect in their system right now. That would be absolutely fantastic, right? If you were able to trade for Seiya Suzuki and just give up a Justin Ramir, you should be doing that tomorrow. Unfortunately, this is one I don't agree with baseball trade values on. I think it's going to take a more significant package in order to pry Seiya Suzuki from the Chicago Cubs. Now, unfortunately, because I don't agree with the actual value on baseball trade values, I don't really know what that value ends up being. I think maybe hypothetically a trade like this could possibly work and could possibly be something the Cubs are looking for, especially if they're looking to shed payroll, which would be Brooks Bannon, who had a fantastic season in the Arizona Fall League, Alan Castro, and Wickelman Gonzalez. One, you'd have to wait until after the Rule 5 draft and hope no one takes Alan Castro, which I don't think they will. But two, I think this might work for both sides. I mean, you're getting a really interesting catching prospect in an area where the Chicago Cubs could really use. Again, a high ceiling pitcher who has been struggling lately. You've got a little bit of a pitching lab over there in Chicago. And Alan Castro, who just came off of a really good season and could end up being a bit of a utility player for you. I think on some levels this does make sense, but ultimately, again, I'm not entirely sure what the value would look like here. I just know it's definitely going to be a bit higher than what baseball trade values currently has. What I will say is I don't think it's going to be incredibly higher. I think the Cubs coming out here and saying, look, we are looking to trade one of these guys to free up some capital so we can allocate it in different directions kind of publicly means, look, we're okay with not taking the greatest package in the world so we can get some big league players on the other end of this thing. I don't think it's going to have to take one of the Red Sox top 10 prospects to get this deal done. And to me, that makes this deal so much more appealing in my eyes, right? If you could trade from sort of the back half of your top 25 or even into the top half of your top 50 to get this deal done, I think anyone does that any day of the week. You avoid having to trade away some really legitimate potential prospects, and you get a really legitimate impact bat at the major league level. It sounds kind of too good to be true. I don't ultimately know what the Chicago Cubs are going to want for this, which begs the question, is this a realistic option for this Red Sox team? And I honestly got to imagine it has to be, right? Especially if the Red Sox miss out on Juan Soto and they're not ready to commit $200+ million to any of the other available free agents on the open market. I really like the idea of Seiya Suzuki in a Red Sox uniform. The Red Sox have to be thinking the same thing. He's cheaper than Arenado, younger, and has been trending upwards. He's going to be way less money than Bregman. He's going to be way less money than Adames. I look at this and I say, yeah, this absolutely, if the Red Sox don't end up with Juan Soto, you kind of have to at least knock on the door here. I think this should absolutely be something the Red Sox are interested in. Now, is it realistic on the side of the Chicago Cubs? Well, if they're just interested in freeing up some space to add in some other players, I think this has to be realistic for the Cubs as well. They're just simply looking for the best trade partner. The Red Sox have one of the strongest prospect pools in the entire country right now. They obviously have to be interested in trying to make a deal with this Red Sox team. Now, I will say, I think Craig Breslow being the current CBO of the Boston Red Sox could throw potentially a bit of a wrench in this thing, because I think it could go one of two ways. Either one, Craig Breslow still has an absolutely fantastic relationship with the Cubs. This really helps him kind of open the door, gives him a bit of a priority here, and because he understands the Cubs so well, he understands exactly what they're going to be looking for, and it's easier to get a deal done. The other way is kind of the polar opposite here. The Cubs sit there and they say, well, wait a second, I don't want to lose a trade deal to our former protege, right? There's no way I'm trading with Craig Breslow unless we absolutely know for certain we are either going to win this trade or at the bare minimum break even, and that makes it a little bit more difficult. To be honest with you, with egos and such, we know how it goes. It feels like that second one is a bigger possibility. We know they were interested in Jameson Taillon at the deadline last year and couldn't end up doing anything with that. So I'm assuming it wouldn't be the easiest thing for Craig to do. But again, you just look at how both sides are looking to deal with this. I think it makes a lot of sense for both of these teams to get in contact with each other. For the Red Sox, you're getting that super high impact bat, or at least potential impact bat. And despite the sort of potential downsides with the defense and some issues with some injuries over the last couple of years, I think the positives outweigh all the not all the negatives. I'm not going to say all the negatives, but they outweigh the negatives enough to make this at least moderately interesting. On top of that, they've been saying they're spending money this entire offseason. Everyone's been saying they're spending money this entire offseason. Taking on $19 million a year for the next 2 years should be absolutely nothing, especially when you compare it to the rest of the open market here. So that's a positive for the Red Sox. And for the Cubs, it does exactly what they're looking for. They could possibly get some potential legitimate prospects back for the Seiya Suzuki trade, and it allows them to free up that capital that they want to go and get other guys in more pressing areas. To me, honestly, the more I talk about it, the more it feels like this is sort of a match made in heaven, a kind of perfect plan B for this Red Sox team. But I don't really know if that's truly the case. I think it's all going to depend on how highly the Chicago Cubs value Seiya Suzuki and what they're looking to get back. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think? I really like this trade. Do you guys like this trade target? Is this someone, if you were the GM of the Red Sox, you'd be going after? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these episodes, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Sea Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you hopefully with some Soto news. But either way, in the red seats.